Awesome. There she is.
Can you hear me too?
I can.
All right.
Can hear you, can see you.
So we've got about 2 minutes left. We've got a few people who've joined on, and so hopefully we'll get a few more on. But I am recording this live, so I'm excited about that, and I'll have it available after the meeting is over, should anyone want to review it.
Great.
Hi,
I got one there with my folks that can't get in.
Okay.
Some of them have asked. So.
Hi, Kathy. I didn't get to say hi.
Hey, Pam, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Let's see, what is our time? 1 minute.
1 minute.
Norma, are you downstairs?
Yes, I'm downstairs.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't sure whether I was muted or unmuted there for a minute. It didn't come up.
So Norma, before we start, I was mentioning to Kathy, who is the customer service manager at Cobb County, that you are part of the panel for our first Women Making Waves. How long have you actually been here with AUD?
You just gotta pause.
Really want to ask that question?
I did, because I want to make sure that I got your time right. I told her, did I say 41 or 42 years?
Yeah, you're right.
42.
I'm right there.
Wow.
So yes, Norma is kind of like I would say our guru, if you will, for all things customer service.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Yeah. Wow.
Well, ladies, it is 1:00, and we like to be good stewards of everyone's time here at Augusta Utilities. But first, let me say thank you all for those who have joined us. Hopefully, we'll get a few more attendees to join on shortly. But I definitely want to thank for those of you who are signed on and joining us today. Thank you for taking part of Women Making Waves Part 2 here at Augusta Utilities. The theme for today is finding and owning your voice. Just kind of want to give you a little background. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Ledra Collins. I'm the Public Information Officer here at Augusta Utilities. I joined AUD back in February of 2016, and I have had an amazing time since then, enjoying myself. One of the first things that my director, Tom Wiedmeyer, did was encouraged me to become involved with GAWP and to get involved. And one of the first people he actually told me to reach out to and make sure I got to know was Kathy Wynn. So Kathy and I kind of consider myself unofficially a part of Cobb County, because between Kathy and Amy Warnock, who is now with Fulton County, those two ladies have been a great resource for me, and I've enjoyed meeting Tappy Turtle and meeting the staff at Cobb County, and so they have been a tremendous help for me to get acclimated to the water industry. But a few years ago, if you did not attend the GAWP annual conference in Savannah, they had a wonderful session titled Women Making Waves, a way for all of us women in the industry to get together and network. So when I came back here to Augusta, I approached our director and said, can I have an Augusta edition, if you will, because we have so many women who work here that we don't really know each other because they're in different divisions. They may work different shifts. And I felt like that would be a good way to try to see if we can all get together and network. And we did. And so now this is our second installment. And in talking about a title or coming up with a theme for today, I wanted to include women who I felt have been with the water industry, and I have been observing for the past several years. And I am so glad that Kathy, along with Pam and our very own Kayla here at AUD, have agreed to join the panel today and share their experiences. So I just want to give a brief introduction, really quick, of our panel today, starting with Kayla Cooper, who is our staff attorney with Augusta Utilities. Joining the Augusta Law Department in 2010, she is our staff attorney, where she became exclusively dedicated to AUD in 2015. In that role, she serves as primary legal counsel for AUD, providing legal advice to the 5 divisions of AUD in regards to the defense and negotiation of legal claims. Kayla is an Augusta native and a proud double dog. If you know anything about Kayla Cooper here at Augusta Utilities, she is all go dogs. Kayla graduated from UGA with an undergraduate Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology, an undergraduate Bachelor of Arts degree in criminal justice, and a Juris Doctorate. In 2018, she was recognized as one of Augusta's top 10 and 10 young professionals to watch. She is a 2017 class member of the Leadership Georgia, the Leadership Augusta class of 2015, and she is also a member of GAWP's Leadership Level 2 class of 2018 and GAWP Leadership Level 1 class of 2015. She also completed the Georgia Academy of Economic Development in 2018 and is involved here with our Augusta Rotary Club, the Mayor's Power Lunch Reading Mentor Program, and is the proud captain of the City of Augusta's American Heart Association campaign, where she has exceeded our city goal for the last 3 years. Go, Kayla. So, Kayla,
Wow.
welcome. Thank you for joining us. Next on our panel, we have Kathy Wynn, who's the customer service manager with Cobb County Water. Kathy graduated from Berry College with a BA in speech and communications. She studied environmental management at the University of Maryland. She's been with Cobb County Water System since 2001. In 2004, she became the water efficiency manager, where she developed, implemented, and manages the water efficiency program. In 2009, she became the senior project manager for water resources and is currently the customer service division manager. Kathy is a member of the American Waterworks Association, Georgia Association of Water Professionals, Technical Coordinating Committee for Metro North Georgia Water Planning District, the Department of Community Affairs Water First Adjudication Team, Technical Advisory Committee for both the statewide water plan and the statewide water conservation plan, past chair of the Alliance for Water Efficiency, Public Education and Outreach Committee, the Georgia Water Wise Council for the Georgia section of American Waterworks, GAWP's Customer Service Committee, and the Irrigation Association SWAT Promotional Working Group. Welcome, Kathy. And last but certainly not least, we have the distinct pleasure of having Pam Burnett, the Executive Director of GAWP, joining us today. Pam is the Executive Director of the Georgia Association of Water Professionals, a 501c3 not-for-profit educational association serving more than 4,000 individual members and over 200 utilities and corporate members. GAWP is focused on training and education for water professionals in Georgia and promotion of sound water and environmental policies. Pam joined GAWP in 2012, continuing her career in water management, primarily serving water utilities. Prior to GAWP, she worked for the Corps of Engineers, the National Weather Service, state and local government agencies, and 25 years as an engineering consultant. She has an undergraduate degree from the University of Minnesota and a graduate degree from the University of Wisconsin. She's a graduate of the 2013 Gwinnett Senior Leadership Class, a 2010 graduate of Institute for Georgia Environmental Leadership, and a graduate of the 2008 class of Leadership Cobb. She served for 3 years as the chair of the advisory board for Georgia Southern University's College of Engineering and Information Technology, and is currently serving on the boards of the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District, the Kennesaw State University Masters of Public Administration degree program, and IGEL. Welcome, Pam.
Thank you.
So, Kayla, just before we get started with our discussion questions, give us a little bit about yourself that I did not read.
Okay. So you pretty much read everything. The one thing that you did leave out though is I do believe that that the Augusta Utilities Department is the best utility ever. And I'm very, very proud to serve as their staff attorney, and I absolutely love my job. So that part you did leave out. So I'm just gonna start off with that.
Well, thank you very much. I hate to say that I concur. I might be a little biased, but I do concur that AUD is the best. Especially here in Augusta, Georgia, we always make sure we let all the other departments in Augusta know that our director, Tom Wiedemeyer, is the best director in the city. Kathy, opening remarks from you.
Yeah, you pretty much covered everything. But yeah, I love my job, and I've been accused, I guess, of being a preacher for the value of public water supply and what we all do every day. So I'm just really excited to talk to y'all and hope that it'll be beneficial. So thanks for asking me.
Thank you. Pam.
Okay, I guess I'll probably admit this. I'm got to be the oldest on this panel by a long shot. So, as a crusty old water professional, I have seen a few things, and things have changed a whole lot. But through it all, I've been very passionate as well about this field, and there have been times where I have to admit I thought, oh man, I'm beating my head against the wall, and didn't stop because I cared so much about what we do that I just kept going, and here I am. I'm still doing it, and it really is. It is such a thrill to see women making waves, having had an impact that you took forward in your utility. It's just, I'm sure Kathy Wynn feels the same way. It's just an absolute thrill to see that happening there. And thank you for leading that, Leadra.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been my pleasure. I really enjoyed the work that we do, but also enjoying the work that I see that GAWP does, especially for our industry. So it was a pleasure to do this. Thank you for joining us again. So before I get started with the discussion questions, if any of you all who have joined us has a question, you'll notice that there is a chat button on the screen. If you will, you can type your question in there. I'll be happy to ask it at the end when we conclude the discussion section before we sign off. Or if you called in and may not have the ability to type your question in the chat, you can email me at lcollins@augustaga.gov or text your question to 706-496-6692. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the first question. Kathy, I'm gonna let you start off with this question, if you will. Do you think it is important for women to have a voice in meetings or within their organization, and why?
Well, yes, I do. But I'll first preface by saying I don't think, all women are the same, nor do I think all men are the same, right? We're all unique, but in general, I think that women have a sort of different way of perceiving things. And so when you're talking about your organization, and particularly as you move up in the organization, and they're talking about big global changes or they're talking about direction, I think women bring a necessary perspective. Some of it is that we just are, most of us are a little more prone to think about the impact on the people that are going to both implement the change and be affected by the change. And so I think we sometimes take a more global perspective of sort of the lift for change for both the people impacted and the people that will implement it that might be glossed over if we weren't at the table at all.
Gotcha. Kayla, you want to chime in?
Of course I want to chime in. You know, I always want to chime in. What I will say is that I believe, yes, that it is important for women to have a voice and to speak up. And when I saw this question, I wanted to share something with the group that I don't know if I ever shared this with you, Leisha, but one of the things I believe that you have to have a voice and speak up is so that your organization recognizes that you're an asset. I remember when I first started out as a baby lawyer. I'm a teenage lawyer now, but as a baby lawyer, I worked for a firm. And in those meetings, and because we had weekly meetings, I never spoke up because I was very timid. Even if I had an idea, you know, I wasn't very confident about it, or I would be like, well, I don't have to say it. Somebody else will say it and things like that. And so after working for that firm for 2 years, I did get laid off. And in my mind, I said they didn't realize how much of an asset I was. But it wasn't their fault that they didn't realize I was an asset. I didn't show them that I was an asset. And so I promised myself that my next job, I would speak up. I wouldn't speak just to hear myself talk, but I would provide information and provide my insight to the conversation. And as everybody here at AUD knows, if I have an opinion, I'm definitely going to share it. And I do feel that I've tried to prove myself as an asset to AUD. And I feel that if you never say anything or use your voice to share your thoughts or your perspective, then sometimes you'll be, people won't realize the full potential of what you can actually bring to your organization.
Awesome. What about you, Pam?
Yeah, you know what? When I first read the question, in my head I flipped it to the Men Making Trouble committee and tried to figure out what would they say, how would they answer that question of do you think it's important for women to have a voice in meetings and why? And I think they would say yes, but they wouldn't know why. Generally, I think, and just like Kathy said, not everybody's the same. We're all different. We all offer something different. Men do too. And it's just that in my upbringing, there was an awful lot of just male patronizing that we were expected to do, and we were expected to let the men lead and definitely not tromp on egos. I was literally taught to be very sensitive to the male ego. You know, and even though I heard those words, I could not understand them in the settings that I was in. It just didn't work for me. So I remember being very visibly frustrated. I didn't have good control of my own frustrations as a young engineer. And I found myself very frustrated. I found myself doing fairly childish things like, slamming my hand on the table, slapping my head, just letting them know that this is like bizarre to me. And of course, that was also during the era when there was the feminist movement was challenging me as a young woman, and my upbringing was challenging me as well. So there was a lot of tension. It's very hard to navigate meetings and the male world at that time. And so the only thing I could ever figure out to do was work in advance of a meeting and get a lot of things done and prepared for the men that I worked for. And when we got to the meeting, they couldn't answer the questions themselves. They had to always look at me, and I was about 22 at the time. And they had to look at me and say, what did we say about this? What did we do about this? So I realized then, even though I was super frustrated and I handled things poorly and I got better at that, that what I really needed to do was do the work for them and then just let them have to rely on me. And that helped.
I will say, Pam, you just gave me a nugget. I call nuggets things that people give you that you need. Because I'm sure Kayla, I saw Kayla shake her head and kind of laugh because the way you described how early on you handled meetings, that's kind of how I handle things. And so I am definitely glad to know that it does get better and that maybe I will grow out of that because it's a struggle for me. Yeah, I tend to kind of do the looking my
Me
face.
too.
So I'm glad to know, right. So I'm glad to know that it'll get better. And so that's helpful for me already.
Right.
Kayla, so we know that this is a male dominated industry, of course. And you all have said that sometimes I think you spoke to how you didn't think that, you could say something, somebody else will say it. And so at first you wouldn't. But because we sometimes as women can feel less effective in meetings, like we are being ignored or overlooked, how do you think we can navigate ourselves, or how can we find our way into conversations and be at the table?
So what I will say, I also believe that Pam just dropped a nugget. Because one of the things that I do feel we have to do is you have to know what you're talking about. You have to do the research. You have to learn the industry. And so, yes, the water industry as well is male dominated, but so is the legal profession. So, imagine being an attorney for the water profession. And so one of the things that I do agree with is that you have to know your craft. And so I may understand the laws. If I don't understand our industry, then I still can't be effective. So I feel like you do team building, or you find your mentor. I call, the first person I call all the time is Norma Lee, and she can attest to it. And so I think that you prepare, you study your craft, you get an understanding, and then you're knowledgeable. And so, it's one thing to be nervous about talking about something when you're not sure you know what you're saying. But as you all know from when I'm in a meeting, if I know what I'm talking about, you're not gonna argue me down. I still have to work on my facial expressions. I still have to control my emotions because I can come across as combative sometimes. So I'm still working on that. But I do feel that when you have something to say, you have to have the courage to say it. And then you also have to represent women because, ultimately you don't want people to say, well, you know how men are. You don't want them to say, well, that woman said something and it had nothing to do with anything, and then you discredit it. So I feel like you have to take ownership and pride in the role you play, have confidence, be prepared, and just have a little courage, because this is definitely going to take courage.
What about you, Kathy? Uh-oh.
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 I can't hear.
Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so I also believe in being prepared and knowing my stuff. But I think sometimes women can focus a little too much on needing to know and prepare for every eventuality in order to feel like they're of value to be at that meeting. So the first thing is if you have been asked to be at that meeting, realize that you already come with something that you're bringing to the table. Yes, don't go in there blind. Don't go in there and the whole agenda is a surprise to you. You have no idea what's going on. But your male colleagues probably did not spend all night last night poring over every detail of that meeting and researching everything. And you know what? You do your work in just the same way those men do. So you already come with a ground understanding and a right to be in that room. And so I don't come in there like the woman in the room, right? In fact, I was on a conference call earlier today, and it wasn't until I was hanging up that I realized, oh, I'm the only woman on this call. Like, I don't normally come in and go, okay, so as the woman in the room, How am I going to make sure that I should be there? As I often tell my staff, I'm a national expert in water. That's how I got to be there in the room. So what I have to say, how respectfully I say it, and I do, I mean, you do grow out of it. I'm 51, and I'm not telling my age. I have grown out of for the most part, the eye rolling, the slamming of things. And I wait and do that in my office later when I go, oh my God, how are we not further along than this? But I have learned to not do it in the meeting. But you have a right to be there. So yes, prepare, but don't prepare in a way like you have to apologize or be grateful that you were invited into the room. You're bringing something into that meeting that needs to be there. So if you're in that meeting and they're asking about something and it is something you feel strongly about or something you have been invited in there to talk about, then own it. And don't worry that you spent last night talking to your girlfriend or taking care of your kids or being with your husband instead of poring over documents, right? I mean, you do this work every day. You have a right to be there. It's why you were asked to be there. Don't apologize. Don't work so hard to feel like you have a right to be at the table.
I like that. I like that. I took away from that, we have a right to be in that room. I took that spoke to me. Pam, what do you have to add to that?
Maybe two things. Those are all excellent comments, I think. I remember one time a supervisor said to me when we were going into a meeting room, and not just to me, but to a few of us, this is an important meeting. Do not be a potted plant. And that potted plant has always sat with me. And what that meant to me was you don't just go in there as a decoration, but you're there to offer your expertise that Kathy just said. You are there to bring that to the table. Sometimes you're there just to learn and listen, and you have to know the culture and the expectations of the meeting and what the hidden agenda really is. If there is a hidden agenda, you have to kind of figure that out in advance. Like Kathy said, you don't have to have all the facts and be the answers for everything, but I think it's real important when you go into a meeting to know what that meeting is truly about, not necessarily what's on the agenda, but what's really going to be decided at that meeting. So that's one thing, is the potted plant. I think the other thing is, if there's something that you know going in will be of use or could impact a decision, if there's an article or if you've written a few key bullet points or provide some resources or something in advance of that meeting to the others or to the meeting organizer that this might help our discussion, something that you're sharing in advance of the meeting, is a good thing to do. It's just sharing, and it tends to build trust and camaraderie, and it tends to a lot of people go into their meetings without any preparation. So if they have something in their hand that looks like, oh, here's something we should talk about, sometimes that helps. So don't be a potted plant, and share, bring something to the table.
Nice. Pam, let's start. I'm gonna want you to start off with this question. Start this question off. So now that we know, we deserve to be in the room, but kind of sometimes I personally don't feel like men in our industry are actually really ready for us as women to kind of be leaders. I still kind of feel like one, we're still fighting those rights from a long time ago, that women deserve to be at the table, even though we say we have a right. But how do we navigate, though, the perceptions around assertiveness in the workplace while we find our voice? Because I think sometimes men kind of feel like we should be seen and not heard. So how do we fight those perceptions, or how do we navigate through those perceptions?
Well, I can tell you what I've done, but I think the perception, oftentimes when somebody shares with you what they think of you or how they think you operate, you're kind of like, what? No, I'm not, or I don't mean that, all of
Right.
that. But I do think that self-awareness is number one, to really get some feedback about your style and about how you might be more effective. But again, not taking any confidence away. Confidence is really great, but there's, I guess I'm kind of going to go back to what's helped me is to have somebody have a meeting before the meeting, put it that way, maybe with the meeting leader or at least with the person that people most respect. Like in your case, Tom would be, and frankly, I do that with Tom too, because he's on our board and he doesn't say a whole lot, but when he does, everybody goes, what did he say? And it's really good. And it sometimes you have to wait for it, to kind of stumble out of his mouth. But he is one that before I have meetings, I run past what I'm thinking about with him and get some feedback. And whether he calls on me or not, at that point, there's an understanding and an appreciation for each other's perspectives. And then when you get in the meeting, sometimes you will look around the room and you will see there's people just like you that aren't just speaking up, but there are those three loud voices that take up all the space in the room. Sometimes what I like to do is say, I haven't heard from Amy, or I haven't heard from John. I haven't heard, and it may be because nobody's asked you your opinion or your thoughts either. Just start showing that there are other people that are being overlooked, and
Nice.
it tends to, when that quiet person speaks. And Tom's, again, he's a great example of this. I can always say, I want to hear what Tom has to say about that, because he's never the first one to speak up in our GWP meetings. But when you ask, it's worth it.
Gotcha. Kathy, what do you think?
Uh-oh.
Oh, again,
I
I
got
think
you.
with women, there is and with men's perception, there's a perception about aggressive and assertive. I do think there is a difference. I think aggressive, to Pam's point about being self-aware, I think when we are ourselves aggressive, when you're in a meeting situation or you're with someone, the end result of that is to diminish the person that you're dealing with. If you're assertive, you're simply confident in what you're saying, you're bringing it across, but at the same time, you're doing it in a way that is respectful and doesn't diminish anyone. And are there men in the industry that are uncomfortable? There's frankly women in the industry who have come up behind us who are not comfortable with assertive women. It's not simply men. But I think being assertive gets a bad rap and gets confused with being aggressive. And that means you're going to take something away or you're not interested in what somebody else says. I also think being fully present when you're in those meetings can help. It helps you with your self-awareness. So if you're, I think Kayla said, I'm still trying to control my emotions in some meetings, right? So a good gauge for that when I was younger was just to look around the table, right? And so you'll just see that kind of look. You've seen that look and you're like, whoa, right? And as we become more self-aware, we can rein it in, right? And kind of stop that. So I believe if you can do some self-regulation and self-awareness, I'm a big fan of that. But I think it's okay for women to be assertive. And I think in our industry, to some point, there's a need for it, a respectful assertiveness, so that Pam doesn't have to be in every meeting and the list of people she hasn't heard from is every woman at the table. I mean, I do think there is a need for some assertiveness, but not in absence of respect, not an absence of somebody having a legitimately different position than you. I think it is okay to say, hey, I feel strongly about this and this is why. And I guess I interpret assertive to be that rather than I'm going to come in, I'm going to be the person who talks over everyone. I'm just going to put my foot down. We are going to do what I want to do. It hasn't shown me to be that effective long term to come into a situation kind of with that goal in mind or even with that approach, because the damage you can do at that level and how much time it'll take you to rebuild it is really long lasting. Like, your reputation will follow you for a long, long time. So if you're respectful at the same time, you can own that assertiveness. You just don't do it at the expense of others. But I do think there is a need for that assertiveness, particularly in male-dominated cultures. And I think you'll always find men who will support that. I know that Pam feels the same way. I've had many really good male mentors, some of whom I've been texting from the back of a room in a meeting going, Kathy, you know better than this. Stand up and say what? Stand up and say what we know is right, right? I mean, it hasn't come from another woman. It's come from the guy in the back, you know, who got my cell, who says, Kathy, you know that's not right. Stand up and tell them what you know. Stand up and tell them that's not what we should do, right? I mean, so I think that kind of encouragement can come from anywhere. I think self-awareness is very important. I'll end with this story I always tell my field guys. So you also can't take every battle to the end, right? So I work in service. We work in a male-dominated field that's not just that way for water professionals. It's that way for the people that we deal with in the public, okay? So my field service staff is used to getting this call from me. Hey, I need you guys to call so-and-so. I need you to tell the customer exactly what I just told them, but in a deeper voice. Because I am an expert in water, but my voice isn't deep enough. So you know how I taught you all about that? Now I need you to repeat that to them in a deeper voice.
Wow.
Because I go on and on and on, but I'm never going to get there because that customer isn't there or that citizen isn't there. Since I taught my field guys that, I'll just have them reiterate what I taught them. And you know what? I'll move on. I won't go home and I won't take it home with me and I won't be like, I must turn the tide for all women in water and get this clown to realize that I know what I'm talking about. Nope. I just walk away and go, well, you were talking to a national expert in water. Now you're talking to the people she taught, but whatever.
Okay.
You know, that's what I'd say.
Kayla.
It's so crazy. I feel like Pam and Kathy, they took my answers. I tell Leidra all the time that I am the sophisticated attorney I am today because of Tom Wiedemeyer. Sometimes Leidra will say, Kayla, you know, you act like this, and I say, well, you should have saw me before. Because he has really taught me, you know, you do have to choose your battles wisely. You can be passionate, but don't come across as too emotional. And you know, as women, they're always, oh, you're so emotional. But there's a thin line between being passionate and believing in, you know, what you're saying, and just being very, very emotional. I have been working on, like you all said, self-awareness. You do have to get feedback from trusted sources. You know, this is what I meant. Well, this is how it came across, and so you have to take that feedback. You have to make those adjustments. You know, you have to not take everything personal. And that's my biggest thing in life. It's like, no, they came at me. I got to go back hard. And it's like, you are a professional. You cannot do that. That's not how you act. And so I think it does take a certain level of maturity with that. And, you know, sometimes exactly what Kathy said, it's like every battle is not your battle. You know, you like she said earlier, you're in that room because you have a certain expertise. You know, y'all, AUD knows if you talking about something that's customer service or engineering, I will let you win. But if you talking about the law, no, you're not gonna outlaw me because you know I'm the one that's the attorney. But still coming across as confident, but still humble. So you don't want to talk down to people. You want to be respectful. You want them to understand what you're saying. And, as women, it is a tough balance because I do sometimes think, sometimes we are very emotional, but just learning to have your passion under control. And I think that takes time, self-awareness, like I said, getting feedback from your trusted mentors, men and women. And in time, it'll come because, some of us have a long way to go.
Well, I tell you what, I have learned a lot in these past 30 minutes or so. I feel like I'm gonna go back and watch this again and take copious notes. Uh-oh. When you don't move around, lights goes off. Sorry. So gosh, I thank you ladies so much. Kathy, what I kind of really took away from what you said was the line between being aggressive and assertive. Being assertive is okay, um, as long as because you're confident in what it is that you're talking about, as long as it doesn't come across disrespectfully. There's a way to say, because I always say it's not what you say, but how you say it. So there's a way that you can say what it is that you need to say, and the self awareness. That's something that I am still working on. But to help me grow, I see what you all mean when you say becoming self aware and then owning that when you're in the room. So thank you guys for sharing that. Let me check and see did anyone put any questions in the chat. So no.
Do you mind if I add a point to that last?
Absolutely.
That just after listening to Kathy and Kayla, one of the things that took me a long time to learn, but when I find myself agitated, that thing where your stomach starts to go and you're kind of like your jaw starting to set, and how that is. I now use that as a signal to take a breath and to just physically stop myself from that agitation right then and right there. And that tends to then let the self-awareness start to come back, and in the calm face that other people can then listen to. They can't listen to you when you're angry. I mean, I can't listen to anybody when they're angry very, very well.
Right.
And so I have learned that. It's taken a lot of practice, but just that simple thing of being aware of that you're agitated by something. And it may be, I'll tell you one time, and I notice this a lot. I have an ex-husband who I still don't like. I mean, and so every now and then somebody will talk to me in a way that triggers something that I don't even know why I don't like it, but I don't like it. And there's a response to that. And I've had to learn to figure out what that was, to kind of walk away from it and say, why did that bother me? The words weren't troubling. It was something in my own background that stung me. And so I now handle that so much better. But it used to have those kinds of triggers had control over me, and immediately put me in a defensive spot in the room. So just take a breath.
Nice. Any of the other attendees have any questions or anything to add? I want to unmute the participants and see. I'm not sure. I see Norma's on, Melissa. There are a few others. I can't really tell who's on, but Norma, you have anything maybe perhaps that you'd like to add to the conversation or a question for our panels?
No, I did enjoy it. I did write down some tidbits myself.
So does that mean you're going to be around for another 40 years? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what she's saying.
It does not, but I had to kind of laugh when Kayla was talking about holding herself and not going there, because I know we had a conversation about when she was in court one day and these people were challenging her and pushing her to the edge. And she said, you know what? I know, but I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go to jail today. And so, I think about that when she said that, sometimes we do get caught up in the emotion. And I'm one too. I told them a long time ago, both my bosses, if it's in my head, a lot of times it's out my mouth. And so I'm trying to control that.
Anyone
But I
else?
appreciate it.
Anybody else?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening to everybody on the panel. This is Melissa. It would be wonderful if this was recorded.
It is, Melissa. I did record it.
I would love to play it for some women that I know in utilities. One of my favorite sayings from today is "Don't be a potted plant."
Yes.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes, that was a good one.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not sure who the other callers are, but anyone else on the call who'd like to share? Well, ladies, I'm gonna give you guys a chance, starting with Pam to give some closing remarks, and we'll wrap up.
Okay, I think I'm just going to go back to knowing yourself and being upfront about your weaknesses. I have to admit that's another one of those things that I thought, Kathy, you mentioned this too. I thought I'm going to have great control over everything that's going on all the time in order to be successful. And once it was pointed out to me and I became familiar with my own weaknesses, that really helped me to be able to stand down when I needed to stand down on things and say, you know what, this is not my area. This is why I need you. So a lot of it is admitting and counting on others to help you. I think when you acknowledge the expertise in the room yourself, you become then trusted as well. It's sort of this mutual respect that happens. And I'll leave it there.
Kathy?
Okay. So I would say I was going to say something similar to what Pam said, but what I'll say is I'll tell you to leverage opportunities. So if you get an opportunity where you are that expert in the room or something happens, leverage that opportunity, because when I was talking before about your reputation, it can also be made in a positive way. So in 2007 to 2009, we had a terrible drought. I think we all remember that, almost ran out of water. And I was younger at that time, and I remember being in a meeting, and all of the political leadership was in there, and Carol Couch, who runs EPD, was in there, and we were all talking about what we were going to do. And somebody asked a question, well, what is the plan? And nobody said anything. And again, self-awareness, look around the room, and I all of a sudden had this frightening thought, oh my God, they think I'm the one who's going to answer that question. And so in the don't be a potted plant arena, I did answer the question based on the knowledge that I had and based on trying to do the right thing. And I will say that experience, though, was one of the hardest things for me career-wise, and I still have a little PTSD from that experience. It also made my reputation in the industry. Taking that opportunity and running with it gave my reputation, gave my visibility really ramped it up in terms of just how quickly I could make a reputation in my industry. And so even if you're scared, and even if you look around the room and go, wow, these people must be crazy, why would they think I would be able to answer that question? Put yourself out there, answer the question, give it a shot. You never know what might happen. It worked out for me. Like, I'm very random, but still worked out for me. So don't trust yourself. Trust that if they're looking to you, they're looking to you because they consider you to be the person with the answer. So give it a shot.
Great. Kayla, wrap it up for us.
One of the things I do want to say, and I feel like events like this, GAWP conferences, GAWP leadership, because I've heard Kathy, I'll never forget when I heard Kathy speaking one of the leaderships. I said, yes, I like that. But I think that it's okay to not know all the answers, and to work together. I'm an advocate for staying in your own lane. It's less traffic over there. But working together and being part of the team, I think that is very, very important. And like Kathy said earlier, knowing that you own your right to be there. You're qualified. Don't be afraid. I love "Don't Be a Potted Plant." I'm gonna write it as a sticky and put
Yes,
it on by my desk because I have
I've
stickies all
already
over my desk. And honestly, in closing, I did do a little bit of research because that's the attorney in me. But I did find a quote that I wanted to share, and I'll just end with this. And it says, "If you are given only one opportunity to speak, be certain your voice is heard." And that's by Elizabeth Gilbert. So I mean, that's all I have to say. But thank you, Lidra.
Wow.
Thanks, Litra.
Ladies, I have thoroughly enjoyed this almost past hour. The information, the nuggets that you all have shared. I promise I have so many, and I always kid Kayla about taking copious notes when we're in meetings. I always go to her after meetings and say, "Can I see your notes? Because I missed something." But I have my little pink pen. I got stickies. I have stuff wrote I have stuff wrote everywhere, and I'm like ready to run out of here and run down to Tom's office and say, "Oh my gosh, you should have called in! Oh my goodness!" Um, so I cannot wait to share with him. But I really want to say thank you to Kathy, Pam, and Kayla for taking this time to share with us your expertise and your knowledge. I definitely feel like what you've shared today is going to be valuable to just not just me, but to the others who are on the call, as well as the industry as a whole. I'm going to make sure that I upload the video from today and share it so that if you want to share it with some of your colleagues where you are, you're more than welcome to do so. But I really appreciate you all taking the time to share this afternoon. And hopefully we can do this again um, later, maybe in a couple of months. Hopefully COVID is starting to leave. I'm ready for it to go. I'm really bummed about not seeing people in Savannah in July. Like
I know.
I
We
can't
all are. We all are.
I cannot begin to tell you how bummed I am about not having annual conference and not it's not about necessarily going to Savannah, but really that's my time because I always make sure that I see Kathy out, Amy, oh gosh, Sarah.
Sarah.
I always seek those folks out. Gary McCoy, Keisha Thorpe. Those are the folks that I run to. It's like, okay, I already know who I want to see in July, and I'm bummed that I'm not gonna be able to see these
No,
folks. So, but
I
thank
know.
you all for sharing with us this
We are.
afternoon. I really appreciate it. And if there's anything else that anybody wants to share before we get off, anything
I,
else?
can I ask a quick question? Two things. I have an idea that I want to run past people just to start thinking about this. But as when you sent these questions, one of the things that hit me later, where can this group of women, this women making waves, where can we make a big difference in our industry? And it hit me that we are starting to talk about the water profession like public health professionals. And women can make that message stronger than the men, just because we do deal in that world a little bit more. We see it that way. And I think for our profession to rise up to where it belongs, we need to start calling ourselves public health professionals. And I think the women need to lead that lead that effort. I'm just throwing that at you to think about it. as we meet again in a big group of women making waves of what are the words? What should we be saying? How can we say it? How can we impact our families and the public more? But public health, that is what we do. But we tend to defer back to the engineers and the operation side of things, and we need all of that. I'm not diminishing that at all, but I just think the public health aspect of water is something we should bring forward again.
I agree with that. Because one of the things that I think we found here in Augusta during this whole pandemic is we weren't considered essential to them.
Essential.
Yeah, we
Right.
were not considered essential. To them, it was just our fire and our police and those folks, not thinking that if we didn't do what we do, people couldn't wash their hands around here.
Right.
So they still did not really necessarily consider us as being important during this whole time. So I like that idea about us taking the lead on making sure that we are recognized as important during times like this, as a public health uh,
Essential. We're essential.
yeah.
Essential.
So there was that, and I appreciate you saying that it's going to take a lot more than this just dropping it on you. We're going to have to figure out strategically what we can all do. And then the other thing was I've been struggling with, as an organization, how our members might feel about the George Floyd outcomes and what's going on right now. And we haven't, we're one of the organizations that we haven't made a statement. And I've been curious if you expected or thought that GAWP should have made a statement. And I'm just curious about that.
Well, I'll say from a city perspective, our city, we didn't make a statement. I did run it by a few people unofficially to see what they thought, and our kind of thought process was to follow the lead of our leaders here locally. Our city did not necessarily officially make a statement. So we did not. Now, here in Augusta, we have had protests for the past several weeks, but we have been blessed that our protests have been extremely peaceful.
Awesome.
Not problematic. We have not had, to my knowledge, we have not had any issues. It has really been, except for the non-social distancing. I will say this, during this time, it's almost like social distancing has gone out of the window. But we have had extremely large gatherings. One this past Saturday, probably to me, was the largest that we've had since it started. But they've protested in various areas all over the city as far as walking together. And it's just been people from all demographics, all walks of life, just really coming together and in solidarity, standing to say, how they felt about it. So that's kind of my, I don't know, Kayla, you got something to add?
Well, what I was gonna say is, yes, making statements is nice, but I feel like GAWP can have more of an impact by, I believe that we have a diversity committee, offering different webinars, having open discussions where your members can have providing a safe place to share your ideas. Interaction. Because I was one of the people that lead your acts about making a statement, and I know some things are political, so I always tell her, well, no, we're gonna follow the leadership. But I feel like right now everybody's like, I made a statement, and that's fine. That is fine. But what action are you going to do? So I feel that whether GAWP makes a statement right now or not, that if later on there's actually some action, some discussion, some committee, some type of, hey, let's work better together. Diversity training is always good. Things like that, to me, will have a longer lasting impact than making a statement right now. And I feel like,
Thank
you know, you can get, you know, not putting you on the spot right now. It's like, this isn't something that's just going to go away. So I feel like we have time
Yeah.
to work together to make a difference, make an impact.
Thank you. That's interesting. Okay,
Do you
thank
have
you.
anything? Anybody else has have anything to add? If you're muted and you want to chime in, please unmute.
Somebody has you on hold. They said hold music.
That's what it was.
Oh, somebody has you on hold. Somebody has you on hold.
Okay. Well, thank you, Pam, for actually bringing that up. I think during this time, it's almost like the pandemic. These are very different times. That's the word that I've been using to describe the pandemic. Is I use the word different. I think the George Floyd situation too is also a different time, but I think it's needed. It's long overdue.
Right.
And hopefully something positive from this will come. Like you said, having those conversations. I like what you said, Kayla. I'm a part of the diversity committee, but to have a safe place or a safe space to share. I don't know what others felt like when they went back to work where they are. You could kind of feel to me around here that maybe perhaps things were a little, what do we say? Do we say anything? You could kind of tell employees weren't necessarily sure how to, do I speak or do I not speak? Do I talk or do I not talk? So you could tell that folks were a little uneasy.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of, create level that off to make things just kind of relax. So I think coming back to work after all of that, I at least could kind of feel the tension, and I didn't know how I felt, honestly. I didn't know how I felt because we do try not to have political conversations around here. Of course, here yesterday was elections and things here in Augusta, but we do try to not have political conversations and things of that nature. But we do know that we all have different views, and we do know that we have employees who are on one side and others who are on another side. But I'm okay with someone telling me how they feel as long as you express it respectfully. Like I said, I'm huge on it's not what you say, but how you say it. And I personally can agree to disagree respectfully with someone. I may not, agree with what you said, but that's your opinion, and I respect it, and we move on. So having the conversation, I think if there's a way to do that in a positive way, I think that would be great.
Thank you. That's a great suggestion.
Awesome. Well, ladies, it is 2:01. We did it.
All right.
Thank you. Yay. Thank you all again so much for joining the conversation. I can't wait to share this with everyone once I upload it. But thank you all so much again for joining on, and I look forward to another successful event. Hopefully, we can come together again maybe in a couple of months and hold another one.
Well done, Lidra.
Thanks,
Well done.
Lidra.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.